Um, okay. Welcome, folks, to another, I guess, film review chat of a Lin-Manuel musical. Tonight we have the Ensemble of Education Ensemble chatting about their thoughts on In the Heights, the musical, which has been the movie of the week all over HBO and in theaters now. Before we get started, I want to start with a welcome and a land acknowledgement. I and most of our members on the call reside on the land of the Tongva people. We want to pause and pay homage and honor the Tongva nation, past, present, and emerging leaders. This land is temporarily known as Los Angeles and will continue to uplift the name of the Tongva Nation until we hand the land back. Today is also Juneteenth, and so in addition or in solidarity with our Indigenous and Native Americans, we also want to honor those Africans taken from the shores of West Africa and enslaved and brought here to the United States, forced into labor. And today is the first time the United States celebrates Juneteenth as a national holiday. And so we honor their legacy as well. Education Ensemble is a troupe of young artists that exist to create brave spaces for one another where they're able to use art as a form of direct action. Tonight's conversation are just a bunch of theater-loving nerds with some critical thoughts on In the Heights, and I am sure that you have seen a lot of that in the news so far. None of us purport to be experts on issues of race or culture or anti-racism, but we recognize that the arts must always leave room for critique and dialogue. And in this way, or to Augusto Boal's point, right, theater is the rehearsal for the revolution. And we can use our art and our spaces that we create for one another to have very important conversations like we're gonna have tonight. We hope to share everything that we loved about the musical and all the ways that we know that our community, especially as theater folk, can do better. We understand that BIPOC artists can do better and that the theater industry at large can do better, and so can theater education and theater educators. And as a theater educator, I'm committed to that. And so I am honored to share the space with so many of my former students and the members of our ensemble troupe. And I'll start with introductions. My name is Estella Church. I'm executive director and founder of Education Ensemble. My pronouns are she, her, and uso. And something that is bringing me joy right now is about 4 hours ago, I chopped all my hair off and my neck is breezy. That's bringing me joy at the moment. I'm gonna pass it now to Ariana to introduce herself.
Hello, my name is Ariana and I am a member of Education Ensemble. Something that made me happy, I think that was the question. I made a nice dinner tonight, so after this, I can't wait to eat it.
Awesome, thank you, Ariana. I'll pass it to Celeste.
Hey, I'm Celeste. My pronouns are she, they. Something that's bringing me joy right now is that it's my day off, so I get to sleep all day if I want. Yeah.
Awesome, and Lee?
Hello, my name is Lee. My pronouns are he, they. Something that made me happy today. My brother sent me a picture of his dog mid-sneeze. Oh my God. Ooh, it made my day. It was so funny.
Thank you for that. And I'm gonna pass it to Chelsea, who you cannot see, but they're there, I promise.
Okay, can you guys hear me? Okay. Hi everyone, my name is Chelsea. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a member of Education Ensemble, and something that made me happy today, Valentine and I like an hour ago, woke up from a really, really good nap, like the best nap I had in a while.
Awesome, thank you. And passing it to Oscar.
Hello, my name is Oscar Cabrera. My gender pronouns are he, him, and the the thing that made me satisfied today was just editing a video.
Thank you. Jocelyn?
Hi, my name is Jocelyn. My pronouns are she, her. Something that's bringing me joy today is my iced coffee. Yeah, that's good.
Relatable. And last but not least, our Vice President, Sean Hill.
Hello, Sean Hill here. I'd say for me, what made me happy today was seeing my niece do her recital, and she danced as a Lady Hamilton character, by the way, which I think was a perfect timing for this talk today. So it's pretty awesome.
Awesome. Well, welcome, folks. We're going to start with watching the 8-minute trailer that got released. So I guess, spoiler alert, if you haven't watched it at all, this is, well, maybe not. I mean, the trailer's been out for 2 weeks. If you haven't seen it by now, I mean, I don't know what you're doing. So I'm going to go ahead and play that for us, and then we'll get into our conversation.
Let me just listen to my block.
Lights up on Washington Heights, up at the break of day. I wake up and I got this little punk I gotta chase away. Pop the grate at the crack of dawn, sing while I wipe down the awning. Hey, good morning.
Ice cold piragua, palcha, china, cherry, strawberry, and just for today, I got my mate.
Oye, piragüero, ¿cómo está?
Como siempre, señor Usnavi. Ice cold piragua, palcha.
I am Usnavi, and you probably never heard my name. Reports of my fame are greatly exaggerated, exacerbated by the fact that my syntax is highly complicated. Cause I immigrated from the single greatest little place in the Caribbean, Dominican Republic. I love it, Jesus, I'm jealous of it, and beyond that, ever since my folks passed on, I haven't gone back. God damn, I gotta get on that. Oh, the milk is gone bad. Hold up just a second. Why is everything in this fridge warm and tepid? I better step it up and fight the heat, cause I'm not making any profit if the coffee isn't light and sweet. Ooh.
Abuela, my fridge broke. I got café, but no con leche.
Ay, Dios. Try my mother's old recipe. 1 can of condensed milk.
Nice. Oh, hey, your lottery ticket.
Paciencia y fe.
That was Abuela. She's not really my abuela, but she practically raised me. This corner is her escuela now. You probably thinking I'm up Schitt's Creek.
I've never been north of 96th Street.
Well, you must take the A train. Even farther than Harlem to northern Manhattan and maintain. Get off at 181st and take the escalator. I hope you're writing this down. I'm gonna test you later. I'm getting tested. Times are tough on this bodega. 2 months ago, somebody bought Ortega's. Our neighbors started packing up and picking up, and ever since the rent went up, it's gotten mad expensive. But we live with just enough.
In the heights, I hit the lights and start my day.
Next up, ding, Kevin Rosario. He runs the cab company. He struggles in the barrio. See, his daughter Nina's off at college. Tuition is mad steep, so he can't sleep. Everything he get is mad cheap.
Good morning, Usnavi.
Pan caliente, café con leche.
Put $20 on today's lottery.
Okay, must be a lucky day.
Gotta be.
Oh my God. God, you're so excited.
My Nina flew in at 3 a.m. last night.
Sweet. Well, I've been cooking all week.
Come by when I see you this weekend. Are we gonna eat?
So then Yesenia walks in the room. She smells sex and she perfume. It smells like one of those trees that you hang from the rear view. I know. It's true. She screams, who's in there with you, Julio?
Daniela.
Grabs the bell and kicks in the door.
Carla.
He's in bed with Jose from the liquor store.
No me diga. And that's Cuca, the salon ladies.
Eso es Navi.
Okay, Valentine, please.
Adios, papi. Bye.
Sonny, you're late. Chillax. You know you love me. Me and my cousin running just another dime a dozen. Mom and pop stop and shop. And oh my God, it's gotten too darn hot. Like my man Cole Porter said, people come through for a few cold waters and the lottery ticket. Just a part of the routine. Everybody's got a job. Everybody's got a dream. They gossip as I sip my coffee and smirk. The first stop is people hop to work. What's it? I'm like $1, $2, $1.50, $1.69. I got it. You want a box of condoms? What kind? That's 2 quarters. 2 quarter waters. The New York Times. You need a bag for that. The taxes added. Once you get some practice at it, you do rapid mathematics automatically. Selling maxi pass, fuzzy dice with taxi cabs. Practically everybody stressed. Yes, but they press through the mess, bounce checks and wonder what's next.
In the heights, I find my coffee and I go. I find my coffee and set my sights on only what I need to know. I need to know. In the heights, money is tight, but even so, when the lights go down, I flash my radio.
You ain't got no skills. Ready? Don't let me get a Milky Way. Yep. And let me also get a Daily News. And the Post. And the most important mile. What's the second coffee, 1 cream, 5 sugars. I'm the #1 earner. What? The fastest learner. What? Boss, he can't keep me on the damn back burner. Yes, he can. I'm making moves, I'm making deals. But guess what? What? Still ain't got no skills. Party hard. Yo, Vanessa, show up yet? Shut up. Hey, little homie, don't get so upset. Man. Tell Vanessa how you feel. Buy the girl a meal on the wheel, or you ain't got no skills.
Mr. Johnson, I got the security deposit. It's locked in a box in the bottom of my closet. It's not reflected in my bank statement, but I've been saving to make a down payment and pay rent. No, I won't let you down.
Oh, here's your chance. Ask her out right now.
I'll see you later. We can look at that, please.
Oh, do something. Make your move. Don't freeze. Hey.
You owe me a bottle of cold champagne.
Are you moving?
Just a little credit check and I'm on that downtown train.
Well, your coffee's on the house.
Okay.
Who's Navi? Ask her out. No way.
I'll see you later, so.
Whoa. Yo, smooth operator. Oh, damn. There she go. Yo, bro. Take a walk outside. You look exhausted. Boss, don't let life slide. The whole hood is struggling. Times is tight. And you're stuck to this corner like a street light. Yeah, I'm a street light choking on the heat. The world spins around while I'm frozen to my seat. The people that I know, I'll keep on rolling down the street. But every day is different, so I'm switching up the beat. Because my parents came with nothing. They got a little more and sure with Paul. But yo, at least we got the store. And it's all about the legacy they left with me. It's destiny. And one day I'll be on the beach with Sunny writing checks to me.
In the heights, I hang my flag upon display.
We came to work and to live, and we got a lot in common.
It reminds me that I came from miles away.
We are not stopping.
In the heights,
Every day, paciencia y fe.
Until the day we go from poverty to stock
in the
up.
heights, I got today.
Today's all we got, so we cannot stop. This is our block.
In the heights, I hang my flag upon display. It reminds me that I came from
Y'all know me by now, you gotta just keep watching. You see the late night shoot taste beans and rice. This is a shaved ice. I ain't gonna say it twice. Turn up the street lights. We taking the flight to a couple of days in the life for what it's like in Washington Heights.
Well, folks, that was the trailer that got released. That got released. Should have hit pause on that. That was the trailer that got released a little while ago. And the movie has been out now for about a week or so, a little over a week. So hopefully you've had a chance to see it. But I'm gonna go ahead and pass it over. Whoever wants to dig in, thoughts, reactions.
Sorry. Okay, so from the trailer, I thought the movie's aesthetic was going to be a lot more, I don't want to say serious, but to me it felt kind of cartoony. Not the trailer, like the rest of the movie felt cartoony compared to the trailer.
Okay, cool. Anyone else? Thoughts, reactions?
Yeah, I think I definitely agree. I felt like the movie felt a little more Disney than I expected it to be. I totally thought this movie was gonna be on Disney Plus and not HBO. So I was like, what? I don't know. Maybe that was just my brain, but
we do know we're watching the musical, right?
No. But the I don't know, the energy felt very different. I don't know.
Okay. Full disclaimer, I've never seen In the Heights live, although it is a show that I've always loved. I've always loved the music for the show. So, and I'm a fan. I think most of us here are fans of Lin-Manuel, his work, and a lot of the cast members. Well, don't let me speak for you. You can correct me if I'm wrong. So anyone
I'm a
else?
fan of his work, not of Lin.
Okay, cool. Thanks for the correction. Anyone else? Thoughts, reactions? Feel free, jump in.
So, when I first saw this trailer, which is only about just a few times to be clear, my first thought was that it had a lot of energy. Said energy wasn't that of like just out of positive energetic, and I'm naturally like attached to certain stuff like that depending on like the quality. So like I was willing to give it a shot.
Awesome, thank you. I think my initial reaction was a positive one. Like I said, I've always wanted to do this show with students, and my favorite part of the trailer was that the big dance number, the big watching everyone dance was, and also I love Anthony Ramos, so I just like seeing him.
Yes, he's so good. He bodied this performance. Like he did really good.
Yeah, I love him. So he's amazing. Anyone else? Jump in. Don't let me, I don't want to keep going. Hey, anyone else got something to say? Just go.
Well, I have more to say, but more so about the movie, not the trailer. The trailer,
Okay.
really good.
Let's jump into the movie then. Go for it.
Okay.
What are some things that you guys loved first about the film?
To give out one thing that I liked.
You know, I'll jump in and say I love the hip hop elements. All like everything hip hop related was so beautiful to watch and get into. The rhyme schemes, from the rhyme schemes down to the rhythms to the crescendos they would build up to. And I even caught like certain subtle, nods to songs like The Refugees and that 1, 2, 3, like that, those moments where like they were singing in the pool area, like little moments like that It just felt really good. I felt the hip hop world in it for sure. That one thing I definitely love.
One thing I noticed after it dawned on me after the film is that there were moments throughout several scenes that acknowledged each element of hip hop. So there was, you saw in the trailer where his shoe got stuck and the little manhole cover. Yeah. So we had a nod to the DJ. He starts out by chasing away the graffiti artist. And he's the whole time, the structure of the film, the whole time Anthony Ramos's character Usnavi is telling a story. He's given a narrative or telling a story to the kids. And there were a few others that I did notice, but I was able to spot off 4 elements several times. And if I can read my notes, then I'll mention the rest later.
Breakdancing. I'll add to you what you're saying. The breakdancing, especially the pop locking breakdancing in the park scene, stood out the most, where they were walking up Nina and you know her boy Bunny, and they were just like, yo, they were just so immersed in the world of hip hop in that moment. And also the murals for the Hispanic Heritage Month kind of reference joke that he did with the matriarchs that were shown. That was a beautiful thing where a lot of graffiti people don't realize they also paint murals too. A lot of graffiti artists are actual artists and painters. So I wanted to point that out too.
There was a moment where when the power went out and they were trying to jack into oh man, I should have wrote it down or wrote neater, but I'll try to come back to it. Anyway, keep it going.
One thing I really liked was, I think it was amplified by all the hip hop elements. They were all like super high energy and super into their performance, and like you could see the love on everybody's face for what they were doing, and it was really nice seeing them have so much fun.
I did want to say one thing about the movie as well. Something that caught my attention, and I guess it's probably because I've seen the show produced live mostly by schools, not really like in a professional like troupe kind of thing. But I always had like, I've only ever seen the Tony performance from the original cast. So I guess in my head, I always had like this really big expectation of like, this show is one to give you chills every single number back to back. And then I watched the movie and I was just kind of like, I'm not gonna lie, there's some numbers where I did get chilled, but then like also I feel like I built myself up to have so many expectations, and like some of the casting choices were like,
oh true.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm not one to like comment on like, you know, whether or not I think someone was right for the role or not, but I will say that I was a little bit underwhelmed, just a little bit. Some vocal moments I felt like could have been a lot more powerful, but you know, but the dancing was amazing. One thing I loved about In the Heights always was just the choreography and the music and the blends of sounds and all of that. That was always my favorite part about the score, because that's all I could really listen to since I could never really watch the show. But yeah, so that's my 2 cents.
And you know what? And let me jump in with a friendly reminder for all of us, as well as everyone watching, that in terms of critiques, right, or opinions, like in the theater world, especially, as well as just acting, directing in general, all the arts, there sometimes there isn't a comfort level in the mainstream world of how to critique something and do it constructively and with a healthy mindset. And so, you know, none of you have to apologize if you say something negative about, you know, that you don't like about something, by the way. So just to save those apologies, because it's okay to critique something, to give your honest opinion always, you know, authentically. I didn't like that person's voice in my ears, right? Like, you could say that. It's totally fine. You know, like it's one of those things where I just want y'all to say it with that, you know, with the love that you know you have for the arts, but then with the honesty that you all have as artists in this community. You all deserve to own your opinion as well. You know, I just want to say that. All right. Yeah, we all love it. We're theater nerds, right? We're theater nerds.
So to comment on what I want, on one that I liked about In the Heights was the scene during the blackouts where I don't know the exact name of the song. It's either light up the fireworks or it's just blackout. But as a person who isn't really into fireworks, I just naturally adored the way the dancers and the cast reactions to simply enjoying their time together. I think it sort of serves as a very good representation of the film itself, if I may add.
Yeah, there were a few like really surprising cinematic moments that I thoroughly enjoyed. Like, and I'm not a big movie person because I just prefer the stage, but there were scenes like that one, Oscar, that I was like blown away. And then there's a number where, you know, Benny's running up the wall. That was a great scene to me. And the one that absolutely took me out was Grandma's number. I was done. Like, that was just too much. It was a really beautifully done scene, and it actually called me back to the train scene in Immigrants We Get the Job Done in the music video for the mixtape for Hamilton. And I really, really appreciated that number on the train and down in the tunnels. That was a really beautiful number.
Oh my god, she's insane. She was insane. I'm pretty sure she was in the original cast recording, right?
That's what I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, Jocelyn will be our resident
Yeah.
fan.
I was watching it with Larry and he told me that and he was like, "Oh, look at her go." Like that was my favorite performance in the entire movie. I think the way they chose to represent her death and how like it was a good thing for her. You know, it's not something to be so sad over. So good.
I cried. I was
So sad. So sad.
Yeah, I absolutely lost it during that scene.
Yeah.
That was a really beautiful number. One thing that I didn't enjoy, and I guess I should have expected it since I was familiar with the show. And I think the narrative, the show does push back on the idea a little bit, but very late into the show. I just am not a fan of that American dream theme. Like I'm really tired of our immigrant stories being centered so much around the American dream and trying to achieve a certain level of success in the US. And on the one hand, I really, really connected with so many of the character stories as a child of immigrants and that weight of responsibility, and I'm the first to go to college, and everyone is expecting you to succeed, and if you don't, people will be disappointed. They will be let down, or at least you feel like you're going to let someone down. I definitely resonated with that. The imposter syndrome that reared its ugly head throughout the film, but I was very uncomfortable by the American dream narrative that just was so much a part of the storyline.
Sorry, I keep jumping back in here, but going off of that, what it felt like to me what the movie was doing that the show didn't do as much, the movie was definitely romanticizing the American dream a lot more, and it made the entire story a lot more easily digestible but for white Americans and for white people, because they took out a lot of really powerful and good songs like Inutil. Like I was waiting for that song. Like that is my song. When he starts singing about how his family won't fail, like oof, like I'm gonna cry right now thinking about it. But it was really disappointing to me how happy they were making these people's struggles, and how in that blackout they chose to take out the part where his store is getting robbed, and that's why they have to set out the fireworks. Like, I understand wanting to stay away from stereotypes, but that's still a very real part of our community, and I don't want people looking and being like, oh, well, see, it isn't that bad because look at your sense of community and look at all the good things that come out of it, you know?
Yeah, I was glad that they showed, the one, at least they showed the one guy robbing the store, from that little candy, and his the cousin had to like run him down. Y'all remember that? So there was like moments like that where at least they showed crime, they showed the cat calling. I was like, yo, this movie doesn't feel real until I see someone cat call one of these women walking down the street alone. And then they did it, and I was like, all right, it was mediocre cat calling that didn't feel realistically offensive. And I was like, but it was in there. I was like, all right, this is like a Disney version of Washington Heights that I'm gonna like try to absorb, I get it. I totally hear you on that. Great points. My gosh.
I did want to also I'm so glad we brought this up. But it's romanticizing. That I couldn't think of that word when I was watching it at first. I went to watch it with my fiance and my brother, two people who I never introduced the show to besides just the soundtrack and key songs. I never showed them the full thing because they get tired of me talking about musicals sometimes. So they went in completely blind just to make me happy. And then they both left the theater in more of an emotional wreck than I was. And I felt bad, but it just, discussing the movie in the car with two people who have never been exposed to the show, I noticed the differences in like how you took in the story. For them, it was like, wow, like, oh my God, did you see the lights, the effects? Like they were they weren't really paying attention to the story itself as much as I was. They were more like the music, the dancing, the sets, it was beautiful. And I'm over here like, yeah, but like, did y'all notice that the theme was follow your dreams? And then like almost none of them actually did. Or is that just me? But like they were like shush, like no, like the music though. And I'm like, yeah, okay, well, get off that high whenever you can. But like I want to talk about this topic. And when I brought it up, they were like, you know what? Yeah, but it's fine because happily ever after. I'm like, but it's not about happily ever after. I mean, for me, it was never about having a happily ever after, at least. I don't know how you guys felt, but
Yeah, I feel like this kind of leads into the director of the movie. I looked up what he's done before. He directed Crazy Rich Asians, and which is interesting because like both of these movies are kind of landmark movies in Hollywood, I think. And he's also directed a bunch of like musician documentaries, like a Justin Bieber movie, and like all these like very like they're meant to be they're just meant to be watched, like just watched and you gotta like it because you know what I mean? Like I not really any like super critical thinking maybe. You watch it and you're like, that was a nice time. All right, I'm gonna go off and do my own thing now, which is really interesting because like I remember Crazy Rich Asians getting some critique for being a very like classist and sanitized version of what being Asian is like, and it being a very odd depiction or representation of Asian people for being such a huge movie with a like all Asian cast, which I think is a similar critique that's being given to In the Heights, and it being, I think like we've talked about it right now, it's kind of a romanticized, like I said before, Disney-fied like version of Washington Heights and maybe of In the Heights. I haven't seen the actual show, but from what you guys are saying. So I think it's interesting that the same director has done the same thing twice, and also that the same playwright has done the same thing twice. Like we've talked about it with Hamilton, Lin-Manuel. The issues he carried with Hamilton kind of translate to this version of In the Heights. So, yeah.
I don't know what I was expecting. You know what I mean? Like In the Heights has already been written, performed, won Tonys. Like I guess, like, was I really thinking that I was gonna watch this movie on HBO and it was gonna be a whole new plot? Like, I don't know why I was so, I don't even want to say I was let down because it, like you said, this director is really good at giving you a good time. So like I enjoyed sitting there and watching the show, just like when I sat and watched Crazy Rich Asians. I hate rom-coms. I absolutely despise them. And I thoroughly enjoyed my time at the movies. I don't even like going to movie theaters. But the night I went to go see Crazy Rich Asians, it was a fantastic time. And then like a week later, I go, there were some problems with that movie, and I probably should have watched it with a more critical lens. But I had the exact same experience with In the Heights. I had heard all the commotion around it, which didn't shock me or surprise me. Like you said, Lee, with our last critique of Hamilton, we talked about some of those issues. But again, I sat through it and I was enjoying myself, and then afterwards went home, but there were some disappointments throughout the film. Yeah.
And you know what? I could add to this a little bit with, I actually went to a screening of Crazy Rich Asians, where at the end of it, I got to meet John Chu, and I got to actually ask him a couple questions about making films and things like that. And it was really interesting to hear his advice and hear his kind of wisdom about it, because he does sound like the kind of guy that was taking into consideration a lot of the layers of the storytelling in Crazy Rich Asians and the generational aspect. And I think there's times where a lot of directors, they'll focus on one thing so much that they do miss out on a bunch of other things, or to get to a place where they're trying to tackle a large subject or a large culture, right? And it's like, how do you fit all those things in there? Which of course is a lot of the blowback a lot of people are saying about Rita Moreno's comments and other people's comments about, well, give him a break, or why are we so hard on him, right? And I definitely want to hear all of your thoughts on that as well, because it's something that I realized watching this. I heard the critiques about the film before I saw the film, and then I tried not to colorist the film as I was watching it, which was tough. So yeah, I was really curious about all of your comments on that, or reflections on that as well, whenever you like.
Chelsea, was that you?
Yeah, sorry, but you can go first. I can wait.
I was just gonna say, like, my initial thought was like, I'm actually not that offended. I didn't think it was a terrible representation. And then I was like, oh, but wait, you're not Afro-Latino, so you're also not from In the Heights. So maybe you don't have a say or a stake in it. But watching, like, and this is why I love that dance number in the trailer, watching it, I felt like, oh my God, look at him, look at him, look at her. Like, there were so many different hairstyles visible. Like, I felt like I saw an array of folks. I do understand the critique that, you took out Benny's plot line, most of the characters were white presenting, but I don't feel that way about Smith's. Like, he brown to me, like he's a dark brother to me. He's not white presenting to me, or you know what I mean. So I didn't feel, I wasn't too offended by it. I just totally blanked on the characters' names. The dad, Jimmy Smith, yeah, the dad. He doesn't present as white to me. So I don't know. And neither does the actress who played his daughter to me. She also did not, but that's my personal opinion. And it's really not that people thought he was white, but part of the critique was that you chose to cast Latino characters who present white, or who are light-skinned, fair-skinned, as opposed to being more representative of the Afro-Latino community and creating space in this film. Absolutely, you had an opportunity to create space for Afro-Latino actors and actresses, and you didn't. But I also, when watching it, wasn't totally taken aback by it either, in just the environment that I think Chu also created with the ensemble actors and actresses.
Yeah, I feel like that's like like an unavoidable responsibility kind of that movies like this have. Like, I guess like John M. Chu's like career, Crazy Rich Asians in this movie, to because there's just so little representation in Hollywood and in theater that they kind of have to tackle and handle so many and represent so many different stories and people, because our communities are just so broad and diverse, right? And I mean, I don't know, it's disappointing to see kind of like the main cast, leading cast being, if I remember correctly, like all pretty light skinned, or like tan. Like there weren't any really dark skinned people. So I don't know. It's just kind of a thing that movies like this have to deal with and should consider responsibly in like pre-production.
I guess the biggest offense on their part is that this is like strike two for Lin-Manuel and for John Chu, right? Like we critiqued you on Hamilton, the community spoke, right? Like you should have taken that lesson and done better this time. Same after Crazy Rich Asians, you got a similar critique. Here's your opportunity for both of you to do better, and it still was not where folks wanted it to be. Chelsea, you were going to say something earlier.
Yeah, so you mentioned earlier how when you were watching it, you were like feeling good about the movie, how like it wasn't actually, no, not that it was not a big deal, but like you could ignore it to enjoy the movie. See, that's the thing, what I feel like people aren't really talking about. Like racism is subtle, and it doesn't have to be totally in your face, and it doesn't have to be super over the top like racist. But to me, Lin-Manuel is racist, and the fact that this is the second time for him, like I think really speaks volumes, because you don't have to be actively racist, and you don't have to be like, because I'm saying this as a white passing Mexican person. I had to unlearn like literally years of racism, and I'm still like, I would say that I am a racist person simply because that is how I was brought up. I was brought up in really colorist communities, and I benefit directly from white supremacy, like not accounting my trans identity, how I present femininely, and not talking about any of that, just my whiteness and how I can put myself in. Like my boss feels comfortable telling me that he is getting more racist as like time goes by, but he wouldn't tell that to a person of color, you know. Sorry, this is like it's complicated to get my words through, but you don't have to be like, it's not enough to be not racist, you have to be anti-racist, and this movie wasn't anti-racist.
I also had a problem with. Oh, sorry, Sean. Did I cut you off?
I was just gonna say thanks for sharing that like kind of vulnerable opinion and thought, and I appreciate the way you're normalizing racism and talking about it. I just wanted to say that.
Thank you.
I had a problem with the casting. I forgot who brought it up earlier, but they said that the lead roles were given to more tannish and not like dark skin. Like they were lighter. I'm not sure exactly how to word it, like the proper way, but it makes me wonder whether the directors do their research enough or choose to stay ignorant or something like that, because even with the slightest bit of research that I did, I was seeing that Washington Heights has one of the biggest Afro-Latino communities in the US. So with that, I would think that more of the lead roles would be given to Afro-Latinos, giving them that space. But I only really saw darker skinned people in the backgrounds. So to me, that was a bit Like, I'm not still, I haven't completely processed it yet, but to me it seems racist. Like, you want to say you gave people that space, but you really didn't, and it seems very performative to me.
Very valid.
Yeah. Well said. Well said. Yeah.
I wanted to just kind of jump in because I'm really glad Chelsea brought it up, is the unlearning of it all. Because I feel like there's a conversation we haven't had, at least I haven't seen it being had as often as it should. But colorism in just the Latino community is so ignored. Like, it angers me because at least in my family, I wasn't brought up that way. That's something I thankfully don't really connect with as some people would be, because my family is mixed. My family on my mom's side in particular, we have Afro Latinos, we have Filipino Latinos. I've never seen just anyone in my family be colorist towards someone else. I am darker than like a lot of my mom's side of the family, but I'm lighter than a lot of my dad's side of the family. And on my mom's side of the family, we have my aunts and uncles and my cousins who are all Afro Latino, and I have family that live in New York as well, and I just feel like in this film, what I expected to see represented of them wasn't. I get it, you know, like a lot of people are, and this is what made me mad in that interview that I'm glad you guys shared in the group chat, was where they questioned John Chu, and he said, well, didn't you see that in the background dancers? We've always seen it in the background dancers. That's all we ever see it. That's the only place we're ever going to see it at this point, because no one, and that wasn't even the question. The question was the lead characters. And I love that she brought that up, was that, like, you know, we've had the dancing roles, we've had all the supporting characters, but a lead, you know, that's the thing, that's the question, that's the win. And especially in a story that centers around a specific community, because this story isn't about Latin America as a whole. Let's not over here and sit down like this is a win for the Latin community. No, it's not. It's not a win because it's not about all of us. It's about one community that, yes, is mixed with a bunch of people from Cuba, Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, but I mean, they aren't even like visually represented in the film in any of the leads. Yes, Leslie Grace, she is Afro-Latina, but she's light-skinned. In at least the people that I've grown up around, there's always been, okay, I'm gonna speak from personal experience because I don't wanna like say the wrong thing, but me growing up, I've always seen the whole güerita versus India thing, where it's like, if you're Latina, but you're white passing, you are considered güerita, you're pretty, you're this, you're that. If you're like me or darker, you're kind of India. And I don't even understand completely what that word is supposed to translate to or mean, but I was always told growing up, don't wear brighter colors because it's gonna make you look darker. My hair is very black. So if I wore it like this, when I was little, they would say I look like in India. And I mean, to me, like, I was just kind of like, oh, I guess I don't want to look like that. But I never understood what that meant because I was a kid. And that was always coming from other people. No one in my family ever did that to me. It was always other people, like my neighbors, my schoolmates who were all Latino, who would say, like, why are you wearing yellow? Like, that makes you look so dark. And I never got why. Now I get why, because there's this huge thing, especially if you want to talk about media. Okay, Telemundo and Televisa are the biggest culprits of this. They are the main source of Latin American entertainment, and they never, ever, ever include darker skin tones in their main telenovelas. In the stories that are supposed to be for us, by us, it's always the light-skinned protagonists. It's always the light-skinned like main cast members. You'll hardly ever see a dark-skinned actress or actor in the lead role. Maybe like once in a blue moon. And I think that's the biggest issue here. And I feel like we weren't seeing it so much here unless you grew up around it. But now that it's in the Heights and it's become this mainstream thing, now people are like, oh wait, you know, this is an issue. And I'm like, yeah, but it's not a new one. You know what I mean? Because I feel like a lot of people in the comments on social media have been saying like, this is a newer issue. Like, you guys always have something to complain about. Nothing is ever enough. Like, no, this is not a new issue. It's new to you because you probably never had to grow up around it. It's not new to any of us. And I feel like that's where my biggest critique of the movie is that you had a chance to show what it really is to grow up in a community like that, and you didn't. And I thought, like, and in school productions, I've seen a better job of doing that, of hitting those marks with those emotional moments, the characters being cast way better in terms of representation. No one, I've only seen like maybe one production where they cast someone that wasn't Latino as a Latino character. I'm just gonna say that, and it rubbed me the wrong way because she had to learn how to speak with an accent. But you know, whatever. And that was the only time that I was just kind of like, I'm out of this. Like, I'm not supporting it. I'm not gonna watch it. But I mean, you wouldn't expect that from the actual adaptation of the film. Like you wouldn't expect them to have that same kind of ongoing colorism. And like, I guess, I don't know. I guess that's where my blood boils the most, you know, is I've seen it, I've grown up around it, and I've had enough of it. So.
And you know what? I'll add to that real quick, what you're saying, Jocelyn. Great points, because even like you mentioned, Leslie Grace, who plays Nina, she is Afro-Latina. And she also said that I didn't realize, quote unquote, I didn't realize until making this movie that I didn't really get to see myself or people that looked like my siblings that are darker than me on screen, you know? And she says, I hope that this is cracking that glass ceiling, because I do hope to see my brothers and sisters that are darker than me lead these movies. So I just wanted to add that element, because it's such a even a more valid point of what you're saying. And it speaks to even the artists that were in the film, part of the film, not realizing this. And it makes me think of how many times people are not conscious of their colorism, not conscious of their own racism, like Chelsea was saying, and getting to the point where maybe, okay, we have to figure out, are they conscious of their racism or their colorism? Because it's been addressed already. And I could see why it's so frustrating for all of us and so many people out there that are like, yo, we told you already, you said you were going to learn and do something better. And I could understand that frustration. And then I'm trying to look at it at another way where I'm like, okay, but how many times are we colorists and we don't even catch it, right? And we think we are. And we think we're like at that level of awareness. And then I'll notice myself doing it sometimes where I'm like, all right, wait, how many of my friends of color did I hang out with this week? Or like, is there a reason that I'm not doing that? Or am I doing that? Like those moments where I like catch that kind of stuff, I have to check myself. I'm like, what am I doing that's racist? Damn it. Like it, and it's one of those things where I think, if anything, do you all feel like there's more, can we have more compassion for Lin-Manuel Miranda and the kind of work he's doing, that he's still trying to do it? Or how many of you, like Chelsea, you're saying like, yo, he's racist. I don't know what he's doing, but like, yo, he's racist. And getting to a point where, what do we do next after confronting someone's racism or colorism?
I wonder, and to your point, I wonder then, what does it mean that Lin-Manuel Miranda signed on to the We See You White American list of demands, or We See You White American Theater? His name is listed on that body of demands on the theater industry, saying we are going to do better and do right by Black, Indigenous, and theater artists of color. And this is after, you know, he's received critiques on Hamilton. And I wonder then, what does that mean? Where is he in his growth then, to sign on to those demands, and then not make a change? You know what I mean? Like, In the Heights is his creation. So if anyone has like the right to change whatever it is you think needs to be changed, it would be this guy. Like he definitely holds that power. And so when we talk about systems and structures and racism and colorism and all these other things, right? Like, we also have to think about power, who holds it, and how do they wield it? Is it, and recognizing that power in and of itself is not necessarily a good or a bad thing, but it is the impact that we choose to make on the lives of other folks with that power. And so in this situation and at this height in his career, he has a lot of power. And so he didn't choose to make a different impact. Like he made a choice, right, to not use his power the way his fans and folks might have hoped he would.
So I actually have something to say about that, especially considering the fact that he signed off on that, asking white theater to do better. I think that just, sorry about Valentine. I think that just goes to say that he is trying to unlearn, and just because this is going to sound bad, and I don't mean for it to sound that way, but I like, tell me if I should reword this differently or do more research, but just because somebody is racist doesn't mean that they aren't a good person, and doesn't mean that they can't change. Because if we're going to be acknowledging the fact that everybody is racist and you need to be aware of your racism, how it presents itself, and how it's ingrained in us because of this capitalistic society we're in, like, y'all know. So what does it mean for him to be trying to unlearn this and have this much power and be so in the spotlight, you know? Like, yeah, I may not like this dude, but I'm like, it's important to be compassionate for these people too, because if we ever do want to improve as a society and make things better, then we need to have that patience and that space for people to say, I messed up and I'm still messing up, but I want to be able to do better.
My goodness, beautifully said. And before, yeah, if anyone else wants to hop in after this, I was just gonna say that in terms of that, of the disclaimer you gave, by the way, it was wonderfully given. And it's one of those things that I think it gets forgotten easily how many times we can think that someone has an entire script of everything they believe and know in their mind already, as if, you know, we're not discovering these things together as a collective, you know, as a human collective, as well as individual beings. Like, yeah, we're all trying to figure out how to do this whole life thing as best we can. And on top of that, the way you acknowledge that compassion to be had, that's a huge difference, especially for everyone watching, in how like the cancel culture like idea exists, of when we see the worst of that being demonizing and hurtful of people, and hurting people deeper than their mistake, right? And then at the same time, the actual boycotting healthy part that I love about cancel culture, I'll speak for myself, of course, the boycott aspect is dope. It's amazing to me, where we can all unify and say, you know what, this person needs to not work here anymore. Let's focus on getting them out of doing their job here, right? So that part, I love the aspect of that. So, you know, I think we're clarifying as well here as an ensemble of what we mean when we say if someone is doing something racist or being colorist, that we still have hope for them. We still have, you know, a faith in them to learn and grow from that, right? Is that kind of what we're saying? I feel like, let me know if that's not right.
I agree completely. Thank you, Sean.
I do love words. I love words. I love language.
I feel like it's really important. I like, Sean, what you mentioned about like the parts of cancel culture that you like and think are like productive. And I feel like we can use elements of cancel culture and just to hold people and creators and artists accountable for making dumb decisions or bad decisions sometimes. And I think when someone like Rita Moreno makes a statement like, why can't you just leave it alone for now? I think like this like really not great mentality of thinking that something is above criticism just because it's the big thing or such an important thing to happen. Like, I don't know. It's I think especially now as we enter, like as we see you white American theater or other organizations like that, and as the theater world is being transformed into something that's trying to be more actively anti-racist. I mean, like holding each other accountable for each other's racism and colorism and issues is important and necessary. And to think that anyone is above that kind of criticism, like Lin-Manuel, yeah, he's a great playwright and etc. like artist. That doesn't mean that he should be exempt from any criticism coming from really valid and important sources. So, like, just simply criticizing somebody doesn't necessarily mean that they're canceled and that we should never listen to them or enjoy their work or ever. Like, I think my point is nothing is above criticism.
That was
I agree. I'm gonna try to find the best words I can to explain this, but so when he first started writing Hamilton, from the second he started to when it was, you know, in workshop, whatever, it was like what, 9 years or something like that, like a really long time. Am I wrong? It took many years, and he did a lot of research, read a lot of books, researched Hamilton to make it like as perfect as possible. And from the time In the Heights came out to like today, it's been many years as well. So I feel like he's had time to kind of, you know, once he knew that a movie was going to be made and he was going to be a big part of it, he had time to like, you know, fix any mistakes or like make any like adjustments that were needed. And I know he created this musical, he said, because he wanted to see more like Latino representation in theater or just in general. And I feel like maybe the lack of Afro-Latino representation maybe shows that maybe he, not just him, but as like a Latino community in general, how we still don't see Afro-Latinos as Latinos, and how far we need to come with like recognizing that they are. And I think that's why a lot of people maybe don't see a problem, because they're like, oh, you know, it's Latinos, like we get representation, but it's like there's like this whole other like part you're not including, and it's like Afro-Latinos are Latinos. Does it make sense? Does it make sense? I don't know.
It makes sense.
But yeah, I feel like a lot of Latinos still don't recognize or accept Afro-Latinos as, you know, part of our community. And it's a really big issue, and we still have a very far to go with that. Yeah.
Something that kind of irked me about the film was it was a scene where they were talking, I think it was about Hispanic Heritage Month, and they were giving out role models. Frida Kahlo was listed as one of them, and it bothered me because I think she's 3/4 white. I think. I'm not exactly sure, but she's only about a fourth Latino or Latina. And even then, she was very privileged and didn't go through some of the struggles that were talked about in the film. And to me, if the directors wanted to make a film about giving more representation, then they should have added in Afro-Latino role models instead of someone who is mostly white. So that kind of bothered me, and I think that if ever recreated in the future, they should edit that list of people. I don't remember the other people that were listed, but Frida Kahlo really stood out to me because of, you know, her background.
And you know what? I got a follow-up question for you with that, because I've heard that kind of idea before of the quarter of like, you know, half quarter, like things like that. And I was wondering if you feel like also in terms of what people have done for the culture though, or what they have like accomplished in that culture for the people that they are wanting to represent, do you feel like that, like in terms of the identity and then culture and how that connects, like is there a way that you can look at all of that together, or how do you view those accomplishments especially? You got me curious about this. Because I thought about the same thing, by the way.
Yeah, I was thinking about it, and I was looking it up and stuff. I'm not very clear on everything, all the ideas that go or surround Frida Kahlo, but I'm not saying that she shouldn't identify as Latina or shouldn't embrace any culture that comes from her background. I just thought it was an inappropriate time to mention her because it's supposed to be a movie about adding more representation, and it was still allowing that space for whiteness, I guess. I think that they should have done a little more research into more Afro-Latino role models instead of having the children look up to someone who is mainly white. And like I said, it doesn't take away from them being Latino or Latina. It just wasn't appropriate. I don't know if that answers your question, but
No, I totally respect your opinion. Yeah, definitely will. Yeah, I'm so intrigued by that because I know like and I'll reveal this right now. I'll say this right here right now. I am half Colombian and half African American. I hope none of you look at me differently. But no, seriously though, it's one of those things where being Afro Latino myself, and I didn't even like to even know that I could call myself that, and like that journey, right? Because again, like I don't know Frida Kahlo's story, like I don't. I just know how much she's loved and beloved in the community of Mexican and Latinx people that I know, like specifically. And so to get to a place where like whoever these idols and people that are worshipped as like entertainers or spiritual guides even in our communities, I was so curious to hear that. And I'm thinking about in terms of adding more people, I question about the adding, like maybe not taking away as much as adding more people to that list, you know? At least that's what you have me thinking now. And I don't think I would have thought about this unless you said this. And even me as you know, the Colombian, connecting to each of my cultures, right, has been so hard for me. And I definitely identified more as Black earlier on in my life. And then at the same time, like I was eating platanos all the time with my mom at home, or like, you know, I spent a lot of time with my Colombian family only in New York though. So I was kind of disconnected from that side of my family a lot. But I still felt like I was doing things for the culture, or that I felt, you know, accomplished in making sure. I even did a play for CSUN recently that talked about a Colombian freedom fighter that I'd never learned about before. So like honestly, y'all, this last year, I've been the most connected to my Colombian side I felt like in a long time, you know? So I even appreciate you like bringing this up because I don't think I would have thought about it like this unless you said that. I'm not kidding. Like it's amazing.
I
Yeah, go ahead.
totally relate to that. And I was thinking something very similar. I don't know that I would want to take free. My first thought was, I think they just did that to rhyme, Frida, cheetah. But then my other thought was totally understand your point that if it's a white presenting Latin woman and you were looking for Afro-Latino representation, there are probably many other folks we could have added to that list. But then I also was like, well, as a biracial, multi-ethnic person, I too have struggled to accept both sides of my identity. I am Samoan Nigerian, and you get told all the time, well, you're not Black enough, you're not Samoan enough, you're not African enough, there's something I'm not doing enough of, and someone wants to count the percentage to which I am what I am. And it's only now, within the last couple of years, I say, no, dang it, I'm gonna show up Samoan today. What you gonna say about it, right? Like it's only now within the last couple of years of my life that I'm at a point where I feel like I can say or do that. So I definitely relate to what Sean just shared, and also understand your point too, Ariana, that we could have definitely added. I was actually, when they went to that list, I was like, "Woo, Rigoberta!" When I when I saw her pop up on the list, because I'm a fan. But like that was that was um you know, I get what you're, totally get what you're saying. Um,
Oh, and also side fun note real quick. I was doing a poetry event with a friend of mine from CSUN, Peggy, my friend Peggy, and I was, like Dolores Huerta was there, and she was like dancing and listening to our poetry and the music and the art that we were sharing, part of Salas Nights. And it was so amazing. Like I would not have been expecting that I was dancing with Dolores Huerta on a Zoom call. You know what I mean? It was amazing, y'all. So I just want to say that. Woo! Viva la raza.
Um, one thing I found kind of interesting that I could kind of relate to was two of the conversations that Nina had. So one with Abuela, and then one with her dad. She was talking about how like there's like that loneliness and like discomfort of like not having that sense of community. And to me, it was like being places where that weren't made for you. And I don't know, I just found that interesting. And I also noticed how she when she first returned to the Washington Heights, she had straightened hair, and then after a little while it went back to curly, and she kept that throughout the movie. So that was interesting to me, like how you like changed parts of yourself to kind of like fit in. And
oh my god, I didn't catch that. That's so cool. I didn't catch that. That's so neat.
But I can relate to that, like changing certain features of yourself to fit in with a certain group of people, and missing that sense of community. Yeah.
You just said something really, really important that I want to repeat, and then I'll get your final thoughts on my last question. But you said the feeling of discomfort in places that weren't created for you or weren't meant for you. That I think is the perfect way to end our conversation with our final thoughts, because what I want to know is, where do we go from here? When I say we, I mean young artists, theater folk, theater industry. I truly, truly believe, and you all, I've been your drama teacher, some of you since 9th grade, some of you are now in your mid-20s and like starting families, right? Like where I truly believe that theater people know better and have the skill set to do better. But I also believe, Celeste, your comment with places were not created with us in mind, that applies to the theater industry at large, and media and the film industry, which is crazy to think about, because oftentimes we say things, you're a high school musical theater kid. This is the place where all the outsiders and the weird kids hang out, and we all belong, right? In our ensemble. But at the same time, as a theater teacher, as your drama teacher, often I felt and wondered, will my kids make it? Will they be able to be the artists that I know they are and can be in the industry? Will they be safe and protected? Will they have a place to land when they choose, if they choose, to head to Broadway? And there was a moment with Jocelyn, you were 11th or 12th grader, and you were always singing songs from In the Heights. But I remember when, and I think I mentioned it on our Hamilton chat, Hamilton came out, y'all memorizing the lyrics to the soundtrack. Casting call comes out, Jocelyn comes running into class and says, I can audition. She's Like, just because, and that was a good feeling as your drama teacher. I was like, oh my God, she like really, she, in that moment, like Broadway did not feel like something unattainable for you and for many of the students in the classroom. And so I have really conflicted feelings. There are so many things that I love, value, and appreciate about Lynn, about the cast and crew, about Hamilton and In the Heights. And at the same time, as theater people, we know better, right? And they say when you know better, you're supposed to do better, right? We know that this industry was not created with us in mind. And if these folks, these particular stars who now at this point in their career have the power, the fame, the fortune, right, to make waves and absolutely transform this industry in a way that resets itself or creates particular spaces just for us, right? If they aren't going to do it, then who and when? So I'll take your final thoughts.
Sorry, something that came up.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry.
Something that came up in my brain that while you guys were talking, Lynn mentions that he wanted to see himself on screen and he wants to see himself in theaters. So just something to keep in mind when we take into account, but because he's not Afro-Latino. So that's probably a really, really, really big reason. Okay, go ahead, Jocelyn. Thank you.
I just kind of wanted to touch on that part where you brought up that high school memory of me. I always thought of Broadway as Cats and Phantom, Wicked and Matilda or Annie. And when it came to stories that portrayed people that looked like me or characters that I could, at least in my mind, believably play, it was things like West Side Story. If I wanted to do a musical, it was West Side Story or something else. And honestly, none of those ever interested me. None of those characters ever caught me. Like the stories didn't relate to me at all. And that's why, and this is probably where my bias comes in, is that where do we go from here? I've always been a fan of Lynn just for putting people, I'm not gonna say that. I'm gonna say for making me as a young artist feel like maybe I could be on Broadway one day. I don't know. I feel like part of me has kind of given up on that dream a little bit just because since In the Heights, there hasn't really been much. And Hamilton, I mean, yeah, that's great and all, but like characters that for me feel like I could realistically play them because of the way I look. There aren't too many, I'm not gonna lie. That's really discouraged me as a performer, and why I haven't continued pursuing it is because I feel like there aren't that many roles out there in theater, not film or TV, because that honestly isn't something I've ever focused on. It's mostly live theater where my passion is, at least. And I just don't see many shows where someone that looks like me and has like my face could realistically play a character and it's not going to piss somebody off. The same way that like I also feel like if I were to go into film and TV, yeah, you could like go into something that's an original and like the characters don't really have a directed like race or ethnicity. Like it's just a character you can build on your own. Like that's amazing to me. But in theater, it's such a bubble that I felt wasn't penetrated enough for people of color. I feel like it's just now that it's being put on the spotlight. I feel like it's great, you know, that we have all these movie musicals exposing the general public to Broadway in some way, shape, or form. At least, you know, they will look up these shows and try to maybe see these live. Now that they know In the Heights exists, they can probably go and see a local performance now that theaters are probably opening back up. You know, I hope that that's what happens, that people go in and want to see more live theater to keep this art form alive somehow. But I can't stress enough how discouraging it is that the one person that opened my eyes to possibly being on a stage like that and making it is, and again, I get it, like, you know, you have to be compassionate, but it's kind of like, you know, that whole thing where they say don't meet your heroes. I expected a lot more, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. So yeah.
As for my thoughts, well, to be honest, I don't really keep much track of Lin Manuel. However, I do think it's like it is important to give like a call to what are known as unfortunate implications, because from how I see it, and any kind of creation can like be seen as disingenuous to some people. Not maybe not the entirety, but to some people who either have different experiences or different expectations and such.
All right. Yeah. If no one else wants to share final thoughts, I'll go next. But yeah, like I feel like a lot of us are so hard on Lin Manuel Miranda and the art that's being made this year, especially after everything we've been through, right, in the last 2 years of social justice for sure, and the kind of awareness we have um, of just everyone also that's been marginalized for so long. We finally, I think, have some kind of grasp on it as much as we've ever had as Americans here, right? As people that are living on this land here, right? Um, so I think it just hurts more because he's one of us, right? Because he's one of the people that have been oppressed. He's one of the people that say that thing about, you know, wanting to be seen, right? And to Jocelyn's point, I'll just add that my dad taught me something I'm always going to take with me. He said, you know, his job as a father was to make sure that, you know, the next generation is better than the last. So I definitely want to make sure that you know that as well, that these heroes that we look up to, I challenge all of you to be actually better than your heroes, to make sure that you surpass them, just like Nina's dad said In the Heights, where he was like, this is the moment. He was like, this is the moment where like, you're better than me. Ooh, right? Come on, y'all. That was like a good moment, you know? Because it was just
I
like,
was sobbing straight up like a baby.
right? Like a baby's baby, like a baby. Like it was so, oh. Okay, so like I just wanted to say that moment real quick for sure, let y'all know that. And then on a more sincere note, I want to make sure that as angry or as upset as people have gotten about this film, that we put all that anger into supporting the films that have been made with Afro Latinos or just Black leading cast members, and making sure that we see those movies, you know, that I say, you know, Regina King is making, to see those movies that Barry Jenkins is making, to see those movies, you know, the Five Bloods, Spike Lee, all those joints that have been doing that kind of work for years, but don't get a lot of esteem put behind them, or don't get a lot of that mainstream appeal as a movie like In the Heights that we're all excited to complain about a lot of the times, right? But I know all of you are not of that, you know, league of mainstream people, because you're doing the things and you're changing the art that you're doing because you're more informed now, you know? And I love that about y'all, by the way. And then I'd say the last thing you made me think of was the say it so it won't disappear, right? That first segment, Washington Heights, say the name, right? And that whole idea of saying something so it won't disappear. And I just want to remind us, like, especially the people watching this, like, in case you still don't get it by now, if we don't see people of all colors on that screen, we do feel forgotten about. We do feel like we are being erased in this culture. We do feel that even if you don't think about it, even if you don't see it or connect it from your experience, it's okay to have a personal experience, but not put that on everyone else's experiences, right? And I think that's a great thing to lead with Rita Moreno's last thing, because she said it. I can't believe she did this apology, y'all. That was really nice. Tell me what y'all think of this also at the end, after we wrap up, because I want to know personally. I'm incredibly disappointed with myself. While making a statement in defense of Lin-Manuel Miranda on the Colbert Show last night, I was clearly dismissive of Black lives that matter in our Latin community. It is so easy to forget how celebration for some is lament for others. And in addition to applauding Lin for his wonderful movie version of In the Heights, let me add my appreciation for his sensitivity and resolve to be more inclusive of the Afro-Latino community going forward. And this is my favorite part, she says, see, you can teach this old dog new tricks. You know what I mean? There's that lightness there, but then there's the sincerity that I hope she is taking that into consideration more, because in a real world conversation like this, Rita Moreno, she would have changed her mind in like less than an hour in our conversation here. You know what I mean? And when she says something that millions of people will see and talk about for days and weeks, it's not the same as this kind of real dialogue that we're having. So I just wanted to make sure I applaud all of you, because without these dialogues that you're having, I didn't have these dialogues at your age, and even then, to be at the kind of youth that you are, but then still adults, like y'all are amazing. I feel like I'm an old man, being 38, but y'all have so much more wisdom than I did at your age, you know, and it's special to see that and be able to have these conversations with y'all and learn something from all of you. So thank you again, for opening up your heart and mind to really share this stuff that gets weird to share. And I love that y'all are even learning that as you're going along. Y'all know I think y'all are amazing. So go on with your good self. Go on with your good self. Yeah.
Well, folks, that I think will wrap our conversation on In the Heights. And we hope to keep having conversations like this about other shows, and things that matter to us. We tried to get you one on Ma Rainey, didn't work out. We'll be back. We'll be back soon. But thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. And we'll see you next time.